I might have to excuse in advance my cat who's on my desk for the first time ever. Of course, as I'm getting ready to do a program, but hopefully he won't interrupt. So let's get started. So when it comes to stress, especially COVID-19 stress, you may be experiencing some of these things: sleep disturbances, mood changes, fear, even some physical changes. But don't be alarmed if you face these. This is very common. We know that these things are happening, and we're just trying to find ways to help folks get through these things. So let's talk about some steps to help you handle these feelings. One of the first things that you can do is have a daily routine. One of the best ways to prevent yourself from feeling overwhelmed or stressed is sticking to a schedule. During times of uncertainty, it's easy for our eating, our sleeping, our exercise, all of our routines to slip away. So when this happens, we're more likely to feel exhausted and tense and irritable. So the good news is that when you make a schedule and keep it, it can help us feel calmer. So the first thing I would suggest is to stick to a sleep schedule. Having a regular sleep schedule can help you stay healthy, even if you don't have any fixed obligations. This means going to bed at the same time every night and waking up in the morning at the same time whenever possible. Then maintain good hygiene. It's when we're working from home, there's less pressure to be on, so to speak. So make sure that we're cleaning up and getting dressed every morning, because this can improve our mood and boost our energy. Then have set meals. During these times, especially when we're working from home, we may be tempted to snack all day or overeat, or others might skip meals and get hangry. So it's a good practice to eat balanced meals at the same time each day and to avoid too many unhealthy snacks. It's even better if you eat with someone. So for those of us who live with others, you can plan to eat together, or you can plan to meet by Zoom or by phone and eat with a friend online. Then this has been kind of difficult to do of late, but when you can, soak in some sun. Sunlight tells our bodies that it's time to feel energized during the day. It's important to get our daily dose of vitamin D. So take walks outside when you can, or sit by a window. Then I'm sure you won't be surprised when I say find creative ways to exercise. This makes us feel better and keeps our bodies healthy. So you can find many creative ways to stay fit, especially if you look on the internet. There's exercise videos. Rec Sports offers exercise videos. So make sure that you get some exercise in every day. Then keep a work to-do list and a special activities list. Keep a list of things that you need to get done at work and a list of special activities to do at home. So when you start to feel overwhelmed, stressed, bored, or sad, pull out the list and pick out one thing to do. Crossing things off a list can give you a sense of accomplishment. So the next thing I might suggest is to use the problem-solving framework. The problem-solving framework helps us because it can be very hard to solve a problem when we're feeling overwhelmed or stressed or worried or tired. And just because a problem can be solved doesn't mean it's easy to solve. So we want to not put off taking action when we have a problem. So this problem-solving framework was created by Raphael Rose, and this can help us decide what we should do. So step one. Sorry about that. Write a clear and specific description of the problem. Answer the questions who, what, when, and where. Then step 2 is to brainstorm as many solutions as you can for the problem. All options should be considered, whether they're things that are actually doable or not. Then rate the solutions, considering the pros and cons of time, effort, cost, possible negative consequences, and your need to rely on others. Then step 4 is to choose a solution or solutions that have the fewest cons and can be done quickly. Then step 5 is to make an action plan with steps including who, what, where, when, and how. And I have some handouts for the things that I'll be talking about today. So I'll make sure to get those to Samantha so that she can get them to all of you. So the next thing I would recommend is to reach out for help. We all need help and support from others sometimes, and asking for help can reduce our stress. So when we're feeling overwhelmed and stressed, it can be hard to know who to approach and what to ask for. Many of us feel uncomfortable even doing that, so we may be tempted to avoid others or isolate when we need folks the most. So I'm going to describe the Dear Man strategy to help you describe what you need and how to ask for it. But before we get into that, I want you to think of 3 people who have offered to help you. I'm sure all of us have had friends, coworkers, family offer to help us down. And I want you to write down 3 of those folks. Just 3 people that have offered to help you. Now I want you to write down 3 things you need help with. It could be childcare, fixing dinner, running an errand, or maybe just someone to talk to. Now, I want you to draw a line from a task to the person you can ask to help you with that task. Now hold on to this list, because when you're feeling really stressed, you can go back to it and know that you can count on these individuals to help you with something that may relieve your stress. So let's talk a little bit about the Dear Man strategy. The first step, it's good to have a list of potential helpers before you work through this strategy. And this is one of the handouts that I'll be sending along that can help you identify potential helpers. So with the Dear Man strategy, you want to describe the situation. Then you want to express how you feel about it. Next step is to assert yourself by asking for what you want or need. Then reinforce or reward the person by explaining the positive effects of getting what you want or need. Then be mindful of your goals and stay on topic. Act confidently by communicating directly with a firm tone and good eye contact. And be willing to negotiate, because sometimes we need to compromise to get what we want. And another thing you can remember as you're doing this is that this can be as simple or as complex as the situation calls for. So the next thing we need to do to relieve our stress, our worries, is to focus on the present, because when we worry, our mind is focused on the future. It's filled with thoughts about bad things that could happen, and we lose productivity and enjoyment. So focusing on the present moment can help you stop this worry cycle. There are steps you can take, and we're going to do just a very short meditation mindful exercise. So I want you to get in a comfortable position. And when you're doing this on your own, you would want to choose a place in your home where you can be free from interruptions. Now gently close your eyes. Take several slow and deep breaths. Now notice where your mind is. It may be replaying something from the past, thinking about the present, or worrying about the future. Whatever your mind is doing, just notice it. Now shift your attention to what is going on around you. Identify what sounds you can hear, what scents you can smell, how it feels to sit wherever you're sitting. Even notice what your breath feels like as you inhale and exhale. When you notice your mind shifting to your worries or to what you have to do, gently bring your attention back to what is going on around you in the present moment. Now I want you to take a few moments to reflect on your experience. Were you able to shift your attention away from your worries? How did that feel? Okay, when you're ready, feel free to open your eyes. And I know you've done quite a bit of mindfulness practice and breathing. It's so important to keep this practice or any of the ones that you've done in the past in your back pocket. Our breath is our greatest tool to calm us down, to help us not feel so overwhelmed. It triggers the parasympathetic nervous system, which helps calm us down. So whenever you're feeling overwhelmed or stressed, just take a few moments, close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, and notice what's going on around you. So the next thing we can do is to shift your focus to those things you can control. We can get in a worry cycle when we're stressed and our heads are filled with things we can't control. Focusing on what we can control helps to free us from this cycle. So my suggestion would be to create a special projects list. This is a list of things that you would like to get done and keep it in a specific location. Make sure this list has doable tasks such as clean out my t-shirt drawer. Avoid overly difficult tasks and those with deadlines. Then when you start to feel stressed or worried, notice the worry and consult your special projects list. Pick one item on the list that you can start right away and then get started on that item. Once you're done, cross the task off your list and be sure to congratulate yourself for finishing it. Now, the special projects list is meant to give us a sense of satisfaction. It shouldn't be like a work task list with specific deadlines. The items on our to-do list help us to stop worrying and stressing about the future by absorbing us in meaningful activities in the present moment. Crossing something off our special projects list can give us a sense of accomplishment and remind us what we can control right now. Then my next suggestion is going to be to schedule a set time to worry. For some of us, worrying can become such a strong habit that it's very hard to stop. This is especially true when we're stressed. When this happens, it can be helpful to take control of our worry by putting some structure around it. A little bit of worry is not helpful, but it can be helpful to put some stop and start rules to it. In other words, schedule specific worry time. So pick a time of day when you normally have 15 to 30 minutes for yourself and set aside that time as dedicated worry time. It's helpful if you do this later in the afternoon. Whenever you notice yourself worrying, decide if the worry can be solved or if it's outside of your control. If the problem can be solved, use the problem-solving strategy I mentioned earlier. If the problem is outside of your control, put the worry aside until your scheduled worry time and go back to what you were doing. Repeat this process whenever you start to worry. So when it comes to your scheduled worry time, write down your worries, those things that you were feeling in the moment and those you felt earlier in the day. Notice whether your worries are the same or not. At the end of the scheduled worry time, think about how it went. Did you solve any of the problems you were worrying about? Did worrying about them make your mood better or worse? So setting aside worry time can help us be more productive and engaged during the day. It can also help us see how worrying usually fails to solve our problems and instead just makes our mood worse. We have Samantha saying, don't forget a mindful practice one time in the morning might not just sustain you all day. That is so very true. You may find that you have to do it 3 or 4 times a day. So then the next thing we can do is to optimize our news intake. With social media and 24-hour news channels, we can be overwhelmed, but information can be stressful. So identify a few trusted news sources and check in only once or twice a day. Remember to pause and take mental breaks instead of channel surfing, leaving the radio on all day, or going through your social media feed. So just make sure you know that the facts you are getting are the accurate facts and only choose 1 or 2 because it can be overwhelming. Then last but not least is to practice self-care. We know how important this is. And you can do that by number 1, offering yourself self-compassion. And we can do this by identifying and thinking about a stressful situation, noticing and labeling the emotional and physical sensations we are experiencing, reminding ourselves that moments of such suffering are normal. And then asking yourself, what do I need to hear to express kindness to myself? Then say it. With all we have going on, just keeping our head above water is an accomplishment. But it's only human for us to be critical of ourselves for not being able to get more done. So this self-compassion practice was developed by Kristen Neff from the University of Texas at Austin. And you might even end it with a self-hug. Give yourself a big hug after you've asked yourself what you need to hear. The next thing we can do is create a gratitude journal. To break the cycle of focusing on the negative, start a gratitude journal. This might be something you do first thing in the morning before you get out of bed or the last thing at night. But as you do this and continue to do this, you'll notice that positivity starts to seep into your life rather than negativity. The next thing is to seek silver linings. This can help break the cycle of focusing on the negative, being stressed, being overwhelmed, because you're paying attention to the not so bad or positive aspects of situations. This can reduce our stress, our worry, and lighten our mood. So, for example, I'm sure many of us have had to cancel travel plans or social plans given the measures that are in place statewide. But because of this, we may have been able to connect with people that we had fallen out of touch with. So this reconnection would be considered a silver lining. Then the next thing would be to spend some time alone. We may be overwhelmed by being in a house filled with family, or you may need to connect with someone in your pod that you haven't really had the time to connect to. And Lindy says she agrees with the news being overwhelming. Yes. So then the last thing I have here, and I'll be sure to provide these resources to you, is a list of resources that we have available that you can access easily. Of course, the first one is our resiliency and mindfulness programs by Hokie Wellness. There's some core root classes that will be going on this semester, and those are mindfulness programs. It's a 4-week program, an hour. Then the Greater Good Science Center at UC Berkeley has some great articles, great information about well-being, a number of different magazines that you can subscribe to virtually, just a really good source of information. Then remember that if you're really feeling stressed or overwhelmed or worried, that we have our EAP program through Anthem and Aetna. And then Anthem's Virtual Resource Center is open to anyone during this time. And this is a great source of information, resources. The handouts that I'll be sending along to Samantha came from this resource center. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, stressed, think about looking at that and seeing if there's anything that can help you. And then for folks that are local, the New River Valley Community Action Center has a resource page also that can provide some good information. So Kathy says it's also helpful to recognize where you are feeling worry or frustration. Yes, physical feelings are very, very prominent when you're feeling stressed. Chances are it's in your stomach, so you might find that you have digestive problems. You might find that you hold stress in your neck and shoulders, and use this information to move those areas by opening them up and stretching them gently and deeply. Absolutely, that is so important. So if you notice that all of a sudden you have an upset stomach, you might want to look at where your stress level is, where your frustration level is, if you're feeling overwhelmed, and then take a few moments to use some of the strategies that I mentioned today to help you with that stress. And there's a couple of cleaning up and decluttering my office on Friday afternoon has been one of my special projects. Yes, I think I did the same this past Friday, and it starts your Monday off on a better note. Samantha says, what great awareness about where your stress may be in your body. Maybe on the who, what, where, when stress list includes where in the body. And Samantha asked, you put it on your calendar? Just curious as to how you made it a habit.
That one's for Chris. Yeah. Because I think I love seeing that special projects. I'm really excited about that because it's something to come back to the present moment. You can visually see that, you know, oh, there was a bunch of coffee rings on my desk at top and I hadn't cleaned it in a while.
Yes.
And so it felt so nice. But I also felt like I was multitasking during a previous meeting. So
Yes.
then I listened to a podcast this weekend about putting everything on your calendar. So I was just wondering if it just kind of became a habit to end the week or if it was actually protected time on the calendar. So that's, yeah.
No, it's not. It's just one of those things. I look at my desk and I just kind of listening and watching, and the stress and the worry, one of those things I can control. And it helps me feel a little better that, you know what, I did it. And now I'm going home to my family, and it's going to be a better evening. And Monday's going to be a little better too.
Yeah, that's great. That's a perfect example of what doing something like this can do for you. Megan says that we might want to focus on why we feel the emotions we do and identify what belief or past memory that made us react. Releasing triggers and emotions, letting them pass through reduces pain in my body. Yes. Janelle really likes the idea of a special projects list, and we'll implement this. Kathy says it's always good to use whatever tools we have. She uses a paper calendar and phone reminders. That's a good thought about phone reminders. There are also apps that you can use to create your special project list if you'd like. And they give you the opportunity to literally scratch something off your list, but you're doing it in an app. I believe the name of the app is Checklist. I think someone mentioned that to me once before, if you'd like to use an app. So that's what I have for you. Samantha, can I send you all the information that I mentioned I would send? The handouts and then this list of resources?
Yes, we would love handouts and a list of resources. And for everybody, that this will be posted on our YouTube channel as usual. So if you ever want to come back to it, and please do feel free to share with people that they can still register. I'm going to send out an email about that, probably not today, so it doesn't get lost in the Monday barrage of emails, but we'll definitely be sharing this. So thank you so much for being here. And
oh, absolutely. Thank you, everyone.